Hello guys, João Pereira here with another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to do the infinite ocean effect in Houdini with a ongoing simulation, flip simulation. So I have a surface which is my flip simulation and my ocean render, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this inside Houdini. The resolution is quite low, but still took me like 15 minutes to render just this frame, and this one was like 3 minutes, but still really low resolution. But here's the final effect. As you can see, I have my background, I import the ocean render, I have the Z buffer, which is used to create the depth of field. I then put the surface on top, I add some color correction and the depth layer. So let's see how to create this effect inside Houdini in 1 second. Welcome back guys. This time inside Houdini. So let's take a look on the setup. So I have just a test geometry here. I created some animation and collision volume. So yeah, that's it on the geometry. So I'm not going to get into much detail on the flip simulation because it's pretty easy. I just created a flat tank and the ocean effects. As you can see, the flat tank, I moved it a little bit up so the splashes could simulate above. So next thing I did on the, I'm just going to get on frame 1 on the simulation was I made sure on the geometry I made sure it was a static object, and I just used the deforming geometry and made sure the collision mode was on volume sample and the proxy volume on my VDB. Nothing too special on the particle separation, it's not very high. So and the last thing I did was on my solver, on the volume motion, collisions, stick on collision and increase it a little bit, so it creates that nice stick on collision effect that our object carries the water. So yeah, that's it. I just cached it out. You will have this setup off the shelf, but I use my own, so is the standard import flat tank, and I cache the particles out. As you can see, it's not very high detail, but as you can see the effect here. So then I use the VDV from particle fluid. Let's just calculate, as you can see, and made sure rebuild STF was off and the particle separation was the same as my fluid tank. Then next thing I did was reshape the particles. I used the VDB reshape STF and dilate it by 1. You can set this to 3 if you want, but on this case, because it was really low resolution, 1 was good enough. So 1. I then smooth it out. As you can see, Laplacian flow is the best for fluids. With my experience, which is not very much, but I tend to use this one a lot. 2 iterations, and then reshape again. But this time we need to erode, and with the same offset as this one. So 1, 1. If I change this to 3, this one would have to be 3, and then I convert this to a polygon. Nothing too special. I then proceeded to delete the bottom part, just leave the top one. So I disable this number and I use the bounding by volume over points and delete the non-selected, and made sure to have a really high number on the size. on the center I just copy this parameter, paste it here, divided by 2 and -1, which then I can increase or decrease this very easily, as you can see. Yeah, I then cache that out and create a null for better visualization. So we have our surface here. It's not really high detail, but it serves the purpose of this tutorial. And I also have white water, but I'm not going to use this, so I can just move it. I have a standard camera and the environment light, pretty standard. So next thing I'm going to do is on ocean effects, create and make sure frame on ocean waves. As you can see, press L, it opens automatically. And let me just organize this, make this here, maybe change the color. I can disable the ocean interior for now, so it's faster to render. And next thing I'm going to do is disable. Alright, let's jump inside the ocean surface, press L, and I'm not going to go into much detail because Houdini side effects site has a really good tutorial on the ocean, but I'm just going to teach you how to make it infinite. So one thing I did was increase the grid size to 100 and copy this parameter, go on the grid, and I paste it. No, I didn't. I just increased the size to 3500. Copy this, paste this here. And it depends on your scene. You maybe want to go to 5,000. On this one I used this one. It gave me a nice look. And on the rows I'm just gonna paste the size and divide it by the grid size. So divide it by this one and just put parentheses, copy this parameter and paste the copied on the columns. As you can see, 35. Next thing I'm going to do is object merge my surface. So let me find it. Flat tank fluid out surface. And let me get off the camera view. If I visualize this, as you can see, it's our surface here. And let me this here. Alright. So as you can see, it's on the center of on the vertex of this. So to fix this, I'm just gonna add 1 and maybe multiply this by 3 or 5. As you can see, it fits perfectly with this. You can see it's not really needed, but will help on the next effect I'm going to do. So as you can see, this, I think that's enough. So next thing we need to do is bake out the maps. So I'm just going to go ocean preview. I can decrease the size just for preview purposes and multiply this by 20. Alright, this should do. And maybe 30. That's enough. Just to visualize the spectrum. So this is personal taste, so I'm not going to tell you what values to put in this, just mess with this. So 5 on the sharp, maybe 55. The direction is not right. You can see, just mess with these values. I'm gonna put this back on 3, I think it was. 5, it's good. Alright, doesn't seem pretty big, but when you compare it to this object, yeah, it's pretty big. So I have my object merge, and To see the ocean spectrum on the surface, it's really easy. Just connect instead of the grid, connect this one. So this guy's on the preview, and you will see this. And make sure it's on the render as well. And on the preview, I will just connect this. All right. And now we need to bake out the maps. So I'm gonna go to the tutorial. I'll make a folder called maps and ocean. This place. Make sure to have the frame and put dot pick. All right. And the frame range, maybe 100, or you can just $RFN, so it stays on the end of the frame every time. And if you want to increase the resolution of the maps, if you middle click here, you can see it's 520. If you want to increase it, just on the resolution exponent, if you want to 10, it's gonna double it, as you can see. As you can see, doubles again. I'm just gonna keep with 9 so it's faster, and I will just save it to disk. Shouldn't take very long because it's really low resolution. Let's wait for the compositing to end. Alright, it's done. Just to check if it's right. Yeah, okay, it's good. So now if I fire up a render, just create a Mandra PBR, and I will use half the resolution and decrease the sample so it's really quick to render. If I go to my render view, if I fire up a render, sorry guys, my computer crashed, I don't know why. So I just created a Mandra PBR node and override the camera resolution and decrease the pixel sample so it's quicker for this tutorial. And I also made sure ocean interior was off, so it's much quicker to render. As you can see, it gives a nice displacement to the object. If we use this one, you won't see the same effect. As you can see, it's just flat. So yep, next thing I'm going to do is show you how to render out the big ocean, and I just copy this node and paste it. Alright, and instead of the object merge, I'm just gonna use the grid, and I decrease the rows to 36 so it's quicker to render. So let's fire up a render and let's see how this one performs. Yep. As you can see, maybe it's too bright because we don't have the ocean interior turned on, but can just decrease the light exposure, increase a little bit here. Yeah, it's easier to see this way. And one of the first problems I found was that the ocean was the same all the way to the end. You can see it here because it's really low resolution, but if you increase the size, the ocean will look quite ugly because it's the same pattern all the way to the back in all directions. So to fix this, I watched some tutorials and found one on FX PhD that was really sick, and I'm going to show you guys the method here to fix this effect. As you can see, it's really low res, you can see it very well, but the same pattern goes all the way to the back, and it's really ugly in high resolution. And to fix this in the ocean render, I will just rename this to ocean render surface render infinite. Alright, so to fix this I just created an attribute fop, and I also increased the grid subdivisions because we're gonna displace the geometry. So yeah, it's fine. So jump inside, and what I'm going to do is distort this. So I'm gonna use a turbulent noise, the position, take this, and I'm gonna add it to the current position, so this way. Alright, as you can see, and if I plug this to the position, and it's 3D noise, of course, we'll get this fine. And I'm just gonna increase the amplitude and decrease the just gonna copy so I can change this at once, the frequency to something really low. It's yeah, as you can see. But the problem we have here is that it displaces in all directions. So to display, I want to displace it only on the Y. So to do that, I'm just gonna use the node called set vector component, and I want second component, which is the Y. As you can see, it only displaces on the Y axis. Alright, but I don't want it to displace on the center around my simulation. So to do this, I'm just gonna measure the position. Okay, and add a fit range. And if we visualize this, just the source maybe 50, 300. As you can see, we can control where we want the displacement to happen. So from 250 to maybe 300. Alright, quite good. So, but it isn't doing anything. So the length we need to measure the position, and we need to mix these two values. So to do that, I'm gonna add a mix, and the bias is this fit range, and I want to mix between this one, alright, and the original position. So the original position. Alright, and the mix of course needs to go to the position. As you can see now, it doesn't displace on the black areas that we specified here. Alright, and let me just organize this a little bit. Disconnect the color, we don't need that. Alright, so now this looks better, but I want to rotate this as well. So to do that, I'm just make transform, and I'm gonna multiply the transform by this value. So this one multiplied by this one, and I'm just gonna rotate this like 45 degrees. And if you connect this here, as you can see, it rotates, but I need to rotate the same way I did with this. I don't want to rotate the center. So I'm gonna copy the fit, and let me make a little bit more space here. Paste the fit. Alright. And I'm gonna grab another mix and mix between this value. The bias is my fit, and I'm gonna mix between this value and the previous mix and connect this to the position. As you can see, it's really high. So on the source max, if you visualize this, I'm just gonna increase this to 1000 maybe. Alright, looks quite better. That's good. Alright, as you can see, we don't have any displacement on the middle, but on the edges it displaces the geometry much better. And if we take a look at this now, to render this out, it's gonna take much more time to render because we have much more subdivisions. I'm just gonna call this fender. It's gonna take longer to calculate the displaced geometry, but we will have a much nicer geometry. Let's see. And one last thing on the ocean interior, if you want to render this out on the object merge, make sure to check this one, render infinite ocean. We just created. It's gonna take quite some time. And on the I also made sure that on the ocean interior render I rendered it as a phantom, because if you render this one, let me go to the ocean surface. If you render this one, as you will see, if you don't render this as phantom, you will see the ocean interior around the edges, which is like a dark pale blue, and it wouldn't look good at all. So yeah, that's, as you can see, it gives a really nice result. And one last thing I did was, if we take a look, let me make this bigger, frame this, shoot some cam. Right. It's clipping the camera, and let me make sure on the view it doesn't clip at all. Alright. But what I mean is, if I press spacebar 4 to go to the left view, if you take a look at the object merge and the grid, you will see that the grid doesn't match with this. So to fix this, I just added a transform after the object merge, and I moved it just a little bit down, 0.1, no, minus 0.02 maybe, just to match it. Yeah, doesn't need to be exact, but yeah, this will give a much better result and will blend really nicely. So to render this out, I just, let me grab a null, and to render surface, I forgot to put this on caps, but on the ocean surface I'm just gonna put this on here and create, just gonna copy this, paste it here, right, and I will paste this mesh. And inside here I'm just gonna delete this one, and just render this one, the surface. And now we can go to the auto contest, duplicate this and make sure this is the mesh, and this is the ocean. And on the objects, like this, and the first objects, make sure this is ocean, make sure ocean interior is on. If you want to render geometry or the whitewater, and the not the mesh, ocean surface. Alright, and the mesh, make the opposite, so not this, geometry if you want it, but I'm just gonna put geometry, the interior, and the ocean mesh. And on the ocean I'm just gonna delete the geometry and merge this together, and make sure to disable this and to have the same samples, and the image, make sure it's different as well. So after you render this, just compose it inside After Effects, Nuke, whatever compositing program you're using, and you will have a nice infinite ocean effect. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.